Hi, thanks for tuning in. My name is Sheila Cooley, today's host for Common Good Vermont show. Today we're going to be talking about the Watershed Women's Leadership Circle from Watershed's Coaching. My guest today is Beth Sightler, the Executive Director of the Champlain Community Services. Thanks so much for coming in. Carrie, Secrest, the founder and director of Watershed's Coaching. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks.
And Stephanie Lowe, Director of Talent Development at 7th Generation.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming in to talk about Women's Leadership Circle. So before we get started, we have a short video to talk about, to learn about what the Women's Leadership Circle is and some of the background of how it got started. So we'll watch that now.
I'm Kerry Secrest. I'm the founder for the Women's Leadership Circles of Vermont program. And the Women's Leadership Circles is a 6-month leadership program for women in the nonprofit, for-profit, and government sectors who are interested in deepening their leadership. What's unique about the program is that a woman needs to live or work in a given county in order to participate in the circle. And the intention is that once the circle is completed at the end of 6 months, that the women, because they're part of their community, will be able to continue meeting regularly years down the line.
I was in Carrie's Women's Leadership Circle in 2011 and continued to meet with that group of women on a monthly basis. And I'd say that the professional support that we give each other is really unparalleled to anything else in my life. It's a professional support that's built on a kind of listening that we've developed with each other that helps us through both professional and personal challenges. It's a kind of support that I really don't find anywhere else in my life.
So many women want to see themselves as forces for good and forces for change. And you can do it through business, through a nonprofit organization, or through your work in government.
The kind of interactions that you would have with other business leaders is so valuable. And in an arena where you never really would have that opportunity at a restaurant or a bar or a convention or something, this is something that you're focused for sometimes half a day, sometimes a whole day, on subjects that you don't normally discuss.
The circle is an incredibly powerful learning tool and a way to deepen people's leadership. Women have gone on to start nonprofits, they've gone into large leadership roles, and more importantly, what I would say is that they've actually created authentic leadership. So it's not always about getting a bigger or better job, it's about being more of who you are in whatever leadership role it is that you hold.
I was always brought up on the idea that you were a born leader or you weren't. And I've learned that leadership skills were something that could be developed. Everybody can be their own type of leader and be just as successful. And I think this course can teach you how to do that.
We hire really good people at Holton Home. Knowing how to make an environment that lets them be their best gives us the best product, the best care of the elders who live here. And Carrie's Women's Leadership Circle helped me be much better at creating that kind of environment.
It really pulled me back and made me kind of refocus on not just the day-to-day of what was going on, but on, what's the bigger picture, and what's the bigger picture for myself, for my life, and the bigger picture for what I want to do here at the inn.
I used to be the person who was the go-to. I would volunteer for everything. And I learned in our first retreat that when you say no to something, when you say no to a volunteer project, you're really saying yes to something else. Yes, I am going to be spending time on my business, or I'm going to be spending time with my family.
Carrie's bringing together a lot of knowledge that would be very hard for one individual to tap. And that's particularly valuable about this program.
Every retreat we have, someone's able to explain an issue that needs resolving. So the entire circle listens for 2 minutes about what the issue is and then offers just wisdom shower of encouragement, non-judgmental, and offering suggestions on how to get through this issue. And that helped me tremendously to know that these people had ideas that I never thought of before.
I'm amazed at what I've been able to accomplish in the last 6 months and look forward to the next 6 months and the 6 months after. And I look forward to the relationships that I'll have for years to come with these women.
The perfect time to do this circle is the next time Carrie does one. I mean, the sooner you invest yourself in it, the sooner the results will begin, and the better that makes things.
All right, so Carrie, you started this about 4 years ago. What was the impetus for creating a program like the Women's Leadership Circle of Vermont?
So what actually happened is there was an executive director in the Brattleboro area who approached me and said, Carrie, we have an executive directors program kind of meeting where we met, all the leaders met once a month or so, and wanted some support in that. And we went back and forth, and I actually asked who made up the group. And I said, actually, I'd be really interested in doing something with women leaders. And so we ran a pilot, went really well for 3 months, and then from there, it just started to develop, and we've been going. This is our 5th circle. We've been to Bennington County, Washington County, Chittenden County.
It's where we are now.
So it's just been fabulous.
And how many participants have gone through the program?
So the maximum is actually 12. It's intentional in the program to keep it to be a small number. So each circle's had between 9 and 12 women.
That's great. So Beth and Stephanie, you're both in the current Chittenden County circle. What compelled you to join this program, and what interested you in the process? Beth, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So I was at a point in my career where I was starting to, I had become the executive director. I'd been in leadership roles before, but this is my first time as the executive director of sort of a larger agency. And while I felt comfortable with the role that I had sort of closer to home, I was looking to, I think, fine-tune my skills, kind of look at, I don't know if it's also a function of being in my 40s and sort of making sense out of my life, but I wanted to know kind of from a deeper perspective, maybe what I'm good at, what I needed to work on, and kind of have a more holistic approach to what my trajectory is going to be. So, and this looked really women. You know, I looked at a couple different options, and I had a really wonderful conversation with Carrie, and this just seemed really in line with what I wanted. I wanted something that was going to be long enough to make an impact, but not too imposing to be impossible with my job.
And Stephanie, what about yourself? What drove you or made this program appealing?
Yeah. In my role at Seventh Generation, I focus on leadership development all the time. And, you know, we do tons of programs. So on one hand, I'm always trying to stay in the leadership development field myself. And I kind of realized at this point in my career, I'm always studying this for other folks, but maybe it's my turn. If I'm going to be leading this with an organization and helping to do this, that you lead a little bit better if you have your own experience. And I'm feeling that I'm developing as a leader myself. So I was looking for a program that exposed me to more women who are also taking on that leadership question in their own lives. And I realized I really wanted to build a stronger network. I've worked in the Burlington area for about 11 years, and I know tons of fantastic folks, but I realized I hadn't been having that leadership conversation with other women. And I loved hearing about the program from Carrie when she was talking about that. We'll get folks in the program not only from for-profit businesses, but also nonprofits and people who work for themselves. So I'm like, oh great, all these different types of women in different types of leadership roles, all going after that or trying to answer that question for themselves. What is my style of leadership, and how do I become that? So it just seemed like a place of lots of rich conversation and great opportunity, and has absolutely proven to be that thus far. So, yeah.
Leadership can be lonely at times, and I think being able to find connections. And then one of the beautiful things is that this will be a really sustaining program. You know, you'll probably want to talk about this more, but just being able to make connections that in this county that will be long-standing. I mean, I intend and I plan to stay connected with these women, and that. You know, for I think a lot of us, that has a lot of power. Being able to maintain those relationships. So I'm excited about that. Yeah. You know, you have friendships, you have core connections, but being able to relate to women who are sort of in a similar role to you right now can really have a big impact. At least that's what I found. And there's a nice mixture of formality and fun, I would say, with the group. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Carrie, are these similar themes that you hear about from other participants, that they're looking for that professional network of support, but also that camaraderie to kind of push their personal development? So it's a nice balance of both professional and personal.
Yeah, and I think the research shows that women tend to let go of their networks of support more quickly than men because of the challenges of the work-life balance and the kind of what they call the second job at home. And so this is a way to kind of intentionally bring together women in order to provide that kind of support network, and having it be county-based makes it a little bit logistically more easily than driving across the state for meetings, which just gets a little bit tough on a Thursday night or whatever, you know, with our lives going on. And it's true, our lives, I mean, not only for women, I think our society in general is really challenged by, we are at 100 different places and the technology, and it's really hard to connect. Right. And this is a way to find some intentional space to have meaningful conversations. And like you said, it's about both the professional and the personal kind of weave in together.
And is that why you chose to focus specifically on women in that original pilot in Brattleboro?
It's one of the reasons. Yeah, I mean, I think I have a love for women, and women are in a unique space with leadership. And so I think that there is something to be gained by having that, a different space, kind of to be together and really communicate about what are some of the specific challenges that women have in the workplace.
Yeah. So, Beth and Stephanie, you're in the program now. You went in it hoping to find this network. What are some of the things that are most surprising that you weren't expecting from this program?
I can definitely tackle that, I think, a little bit.
Every day's a surprise.
Yeah. Well, I came into it thinking that it was going to be more scholastic and less holistic. And that was actually surprising for me, and I think I chafed against it a little bit. I had a hard time thinking about how to take care of the health of my body or the health of my psychology. Like, I sort of came into it like, no, we got to get going, let's do the next thing, let's figure out what needs to happen. And I really, like, the first couple of times I thought, I'm not sure if this will work for me. And what's happened is it's actually had a really profound impact on me, where, I really had to look at things. I really had to think about, like I was talking about originally, or at the beginning, I need sort of a better plan. And this has allowed me to go back and reset and think, okay, it's okay to slow down and look at things. It doesn't always have to be fast-paced, and to really recognize myself. And I think that a lot of the women have the same opportunity to do that too. So that was a surprise. I really wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going to be similar to everything else that I had done, which is just sort of go, go, go. And slowing down it's a profound impact.
It's pretty rare.
Right.
When you're at the top, sometimes you don't get that opportunity.
Yeah.
That's great. And Stephanie, what about yourself? Did you have any surprises?
Yes, similar to what Beth was saying too. I went in thinking that I was going to study something that was going to add to me. I think a lot of people, not just women, probably men too, go into any type of development opportunity thinking there's a gap or a lack and something needs to be added or something needs to be bridged. And I think that due to the more holistic nature of the program and the focus not just on what I know and what I can do, but who am I being and what really matters to me, it has felt more like peeling away things that aren't necessary or peeling away things that maybe don't serve me anymore to uncover what is my original natural style of leadership that's been in me all along. And it's not about becoming something that I'm not or adding to something due to some deficiency. It's more about really honoring myself at a really high level, and looking at it a couple different ways. Sure. Looking at both our wellness and what we're thinking about, and how we're acting and thinking about ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. It's really it's a full picture. It's definitely not a here, learn how to do this skill and go conquer the world. It's much, much deeper than that, and much richer, I think, too.
What are some of the takeaways that you see, Carrie, and women in their leadership development through this process? And you've seen so many women go through this, and what are some of the kind of the ahas, or maybe even beyond the program? What has happened?
Well, I think one of my intentions, and they've both spoken to it so well, is about how do we be authentic in our leadership. There's no one style, and I think part of it is giving permission and finding out really what's important to us, what are our values, what are our motivations, and to check in, are we living in alignment with that? So alignment is a really big piece. And as they were both talking about, the whole, like a holistic perspective, that it's not just who I walk in and pretend to be. It's like looking at our whole lives from kind of like the big view rather than just a really narrow space. It's not just about skill building. Skill building is a component. One of the questions I always ask is, where are you on your leadership edge? Like, what's next for you? And so that's going to be different for each woman. One person might be working on their delegation skills and saying, I really want to learn to, trust. And another person saying, I've got to speak up. And another person saying, wait, I've got to step back and let my team take the lead. So everyone's in a different place, and part of that is kind of centering in and figuring out what's there for you. So that's one of the biggest pieces. I think there's also, we do a lot around communication. One of my favorite conversations is, what do we need to say no to? Because as women, we're socialized to say yes, like we're supposed to be helpful, and as leaders, we take it all on, and yes, I can be on this board and that board and that board, and I can do this, this, and this, and we never really think about the costs. So one of the things that I like to bring up in conversation is like, what's important to you, and what's the yes behind the no? Meaning, so when you're saying no to something, it's not just to say, no, I don't care about this board or this cause, but it's like, really, I must stand for yes for this, and that includes taking care of myself and taking care of my family, or whatever is important to you, but kind of looking at it a little bit more broadly.
So Beth alluded to this, that many of these circles have continued on beyond the 6 months of the program. And do you see that as a sign of success for this program? And what have you seen come out of that process for folks?
Yeah, so actually all of the circles have continued, which for me I am really proud of, because that's one of my intentions. I think that, like you said, Beth, life, it can be lonely. And that was my experience, and I think perhaps one of the reasons that I want to help create this for others is that I became a part of a circle 15 years ago now, and it's really important to me, and I know how much it's nurtured me, and so I want to help create that for others. And so all of the circles have continued. The first circle is now into their 4th year, meeting almost monthly, and we do some research and check in on the circles every 6 months, and the women are saying, I can't imagine not participating, and that it's given people the support to kind of go for that next job or take that personal move, whatever you need to do. Someone's got your back, kind of in that kind of broader context.
So now that you're coming to the end of your 6 months in your program, you have a few more sessions left, where do you think you're going in your leadership and finding that balance of maybe the management skills and the leadership skills and kind of finding your authentic self?
Well, I'd like to think that the trajectory is stabilized. I think I'm going to feel, and what I'm feeling increasingly is more comfortable and a more measured confidence about what I'm capable of and what I can do, and that you can't you can't just focus on one thing. That you really do have to have the whole. You have to sort of attend to the whole spectrum of leadership, which is, taking care of your people and what your responsibilities are. Taking care of yourself, and that's like, you hear that, but to really be charged with practicing that and coming up with real goals and accountable goals, having somebody, intentionally check in with you and say, So how you doing on that? You know, you said you were going to do this. So what's it like for you actually doing it? You know,
how's it going?
Right. You know, and I mean, it's just it's like. It just puts a whole different skill in your wheelhouse that, you know, I haven't had. I mean, I think a lot of us get here, you know, there's that imposter syndrome. You think, like, I'm not sure how I got here. I don't, you know, know what's happening. But this allows you to slow down and look at things. So, like, no, I got here because I worked hard. I got here because I deserve to be here. And I do think that what's coming next will come from, like, a bigger collaboration of myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I'm finding that, you know, a lot of this experience was about kind of unpacking, you know, different parts of myself and being able to look at them more specifically. And it's been great practice in cultivating that self-awareness that allows you to just watch well beyond, you know, the weeks of the program. You know, once you kind of turn that self-observer on, she's on, which is helpful because, you know, in my experience, I personally find that most of what gets in my way of my leadership is me. And starting to see some of the different places where I might be shortchanging myself or holding myself back or creating my own boundaries and barriers to what would be meaningful to me, having that self-observer kind of tuned in and kind of on my side allows me to keep that work going over time. And then, of course, the relationships that we've built where people are supporting each other, and because we all know we're all going through this, you can continue to have those folks who, again, check in with you and commit to each other and support each other and making sure that we are, you know, marching down our leadership journey in the pace and the cadence in the way that feels right and honoring to ourselves. So it's definitely, it might be a 6-month program, but it's the beginning of everything, really. It doesn't end.
I love that self-observer. She's got a she. She's got
yes.
She's embodied. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that that we really try to cultivate is not being on automatic default. Because that we kind of go through life, we learn what we learn, and then we just go. And this is an opportunity to really start paying attention, because it's when we're aware that we then have choice, so that we can do it a different way. And so that's one of the things that I hope gets cultivated in this through the process. And about that self-observer, I'm always saying, is the flashlight on yourself, like taking a look at what's going on with you, and then saying, wait, I don't need to do that anymore. Or that narrative's not supporting me. I'm going to let that go.
Yeah. So excitingly, you have a circle starting in September in Chittenden County. So folks can sign up for that, and registration is open right now.
Yes.
So May 11th is the early bird deadline, and then you have June 8th is the final deadline. And so that'll be a 6-month program in Chittenden County for women. And who should apply to that?
So the program is geared for established leaders who are in the nonprofit, for-profit, government, and small business sector. So we really want to kind of cross-sector mix, and a wonderful age diversity is also amazing. We have people in late 20s to 60s in the circle. In one of the circles, I had someone who was in her 70s, and it's just wonderful to get that diversity of experience. We have someone who's pregnant in our group, and there are people whose kids are out of college. So that's also another thing that gets brought in, which is really special.
So really, anyone, any sectors that's in that leadership role that's kind of looking to maybe push their personal, professional leadership style.
Yeah, and I think there's something about wanting to be there and have that. Being willing to take some self-reflection in a group setting, and be willing to kind of share and explore and kind of look at yourself. Anything you would add?
No, I think that's good. You know, the mix is really what makes it rich and wonderful. And I mean, there's so much to learn for everybody in there. So.
Yeah. Do you guys have any last thoughts about leadership capacity, how this program has helped you do that, or why you would recommend it to someone that's maybe considering it, but maybe thinks maybe it's not right for me, or maybe they're a little scared to take the risk?
I think of my job sometimes as like being like a pie, and people come in and they sort of want their slice, and they're not really interested in what else, or sort of who else wants another slice. And when I think about this, like, it sounds kind of hokey, but I mean, it's like it allows you to kind of refill your pie and have a little bit more and realize how you can keep doing that, and just to be able to make a plan. You don't get too many opportunities to do that, and I think for me this is really allowed for. It's not it's not too much. It's a solid time commitment, and I like the seriousness of it. I mean, I have great friendships and a lot of supportive women in my life, but this comes with a level of, I don't want to say formality, because it's not sort of like strict formality, but I mean there's structure that I didn't anticipate, and I think really allows growth. So.
Yeah, when you go out with friends, you don't often say, "Am I being a good leader?" Right?
Right. They're like,
they may not know you in that capacity.
Yeah. Just get some lunch.
Yeah. I would just add too that leadership is a mindset. It's not a position, and people can take on leadership in all different areas of their life. And being a leader doesn't just show up one place and not somewhere else. And I think that too many times people will label themselves and shortchange themselves a little bit and say, well, I don't have this title, or I don't do this, or once I get there, I will be a leader. And there's a bit of a misnomer in that. And so I think my encouragement would be for folks, anyone who kind of feels themselves sit up a little bit straighter when they start, thinking about leadership, and is there something in there for me that I can cultivate within myself for my own enrichment, and then to be, a greater contribution everywhere that I think it's meaningful in my life. That's that little call of leadership that's speaking up. So
you don't have to have the title necessarily.
No, I mean, and this program is really for women who are taking on leadership and are holding leadership positions. So we are looking to kind of have a bit of a even playing field. But it's not so much about feeling that you're already at the top of your game. It's really about, leadership is a never-ending journey. It's a practice, really. And so wherever you are in that practice, if this is speaking to you, it's definitely something to check out.
Yeah, it's great. Fantastic. Beth Sightler, Carrie, Secrest, Stephanie Lowe, thank you all for joining and talking about the Women's Leadership Circles of Vermont program. We really appreciate you taking the time. Viewers, you can find out more information on the website that's on the screen. And we thank you all for sharing your insights. And we hope you all learn more about the Women's Leadership Circle and possibly join for the September class starting in September 2015. Thanks so much for tuning in to this Common Good Vermont show.